My lemon chess pie recipe is easy and delicious. This old-fashioned southern dessert has fallen out of favor, but I hope that this video helps to bring it back. If you're not familiar with chess pie, it's kind of like pecan pie, but without the pecans. The main ingredients are butter, sugar, and eggs. Although the original version is delicious, the lemon version is even better, especially if you like things like lemon bars or lemon meringue pie. This pie is really simple because it only has a few ingredients. Here in this bowl, I have 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I use 2 tablespoons for the homemade pie crust. If you are using store-bought or a different recipe and you have a full stick of butter, I'm sure you could do that. You can't make a lemon chess pie without lemons. It's a very important ingredient. So here I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of freshly grated lemon zest. I know that's a lot, as the Argentines would say, it's a lot of quilombo or a lot of mess and hassle to grate the zest off of about 4 lemons of this size, but it's really going to add a lot of flavor. What you could do is you could do 1 tablespoon of zest, or excuse me, 1 teaspoon of zest and 1 teaspoon of extract. And I guess you could just leave out the zest and do 1.5 teaspoons of extract. But since this chess pie is really old-fashioned, I think you should add a little bit of zest. Like I said, 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, along with 1 tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice. For the sugar, I am going to add 1.5 cups, or as I measure, 315 grams of white sugar. I know you're probably saying, Parnell, have you lost your chef hat? That is a lot of sugar. And it is a lot of sugar, but chess pie, it doesn't have a lot in it. It doesn't have apples like an apple pie does. It doesn't have pecans like a pecan pie does. So you have to add sugar to bulk it up. If you want to, you could do 1.25 cups of sugar, maybe down to 1 cup, but I wouldn't do less than 1 cup. 3 eggs, 3 large eggs, 1/8 teaspoon of salt to balance out all the flavors, and then another maybe controversial ingredient, 2 tablespoons of stone ground cornmeal. I know you're probably thinking, why are you adding cornmeal to a pie? But chess pie recipes, traditionally they have either cornmeal or flour, and while the pie is baking, the cornmeal comes up to the top of the filling and helps to form a crunchy top. If you don't want to use cornmeal, you could use flour. I'm using stone ground because I think stone ground cornmeal has a lot more flavor. Some people might think it's kind of coarse, so if you want to use the more conventional stuff that's finer ground, you could definitely use that. Like I said, this recipe is really easy. All I'm going to do is I'm going to melt this butter in the microwave, then mix everything together and pour it into my unbaked pie shell. This is unbaked. While this is melting in the microwave, I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. My butter is now melted. It took about 1 minute in the microwave on high. Even though this lemon chess pie recipe is really easy, just a few ingredients in a few minutes, there is one thing to keep in mind. This melted butter is hot, so it's probably better not to add the eggs directly to the hot butter because they might cook. So I'm going to bring down the temperature of the butter by adding the other ingredients first. So the sugar, the salt, the lemon zest, quite a bit. Make it nice and lemony. 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. You might be tempted to add more. I wouldn't do more than 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, because if you do, it might take too long to bake. And the filling would still be kind of runny, but the crust would be burned. And now 2 tablespoons of the cornmeal. Now I'm going to stir this together. If you want to try the filling now, see how it tastes, you definitely could. Now I'm going to add in my eggs, 3 eggs. As you can see, no mixer. Don't need to mix it, just use a spoon. It only took a few minutes, but the filling is now mixed. Like I said, no need to drag out your mixer. Just use a spoon until everything is thoroughly combined. Here I have a 9-inch pie shell. It is not par-baked, it is raw. I'm just going to pour in the filling. My oven is preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit uncovered for 45 minutes. I just took the pie out of the oven. It was in at 350 uncovered for 45 minutes. It looks and smells incredible. The first thing that struck me was that this pie was exactly the color you would expect a lemon pie to be, a nice light yellow. My guess that the color was probably from the egg yolks and maybe a little bit of the butter. This lemon chess pie definitely looked great, but when I tried it, I realized that it tasted even better than it looked. This lemon chess pie was absolutely delicious. The first thing that I noticed was that this pie had a ton of lemon flavor. Going through the trouble of zesting 4 lemons to get 1 tablespoon of zest was definitely worth it. And even though this was basically a sugar pie, the bit of lemon juice and the lemon flavor in general helped to balance out the sweetness. Don't get me wrong, this was definitely a sweet pie, but it was not as sugary as you would expect. I also really liked the texture. I know that adding cornmeal to a pie sounds a bit odd, but it works really well. The center of the filling was nice and gooey, but enough of the cornmeal rose to the top during the baking process to help to form a nice crunchy top. Honestly, I think that a good way to describe this lemon chess pie would be like a lemon bar, but with a little bit of extra texture. I've had chess pie before and I like it, so the little bit of grit doesn't bother me, but if you're worried about it, you could definitely make this lemon chess pie recipe without cornmeal and replace the cornmeal with all-purpose flour. Speaking of the cornmeal, I actually have a confession to make. I actually did not use cornmeal. Although in the video I said that I was going to use stone ground cornmeal, I think you can definitely use that. I have used it in the past, but this time I used stone ground polenta because that is what I had on hand. In addition to being a southern chef, I'm also an Argentine chef, so I tend to have polenta around. And to be honest, I think I actually like chess pie better with polenta than with cornmeal. I think I liked the polenta in the chess pie better because the pie wasn't as gritty. Cooked polenta is usually pretty soft, so I don't know if the corn is treated differently than normal cornmeal, but I definitely noticed a difference with this pie. It was not as gritty. I use polenta because that's what I had on hand, and it's really interesting how sometimes when you use what you have on hand, you learn. Overall, this lemon chess pie recipe was absolutely fantastic. Sometimes it takes me 2, sometimes even 3 tries to really nail a recipe, but I think that this one turned out absolutely perfectly on the first try. Like I already said, this was full of lemon flavor. It had more lemon flavor than you would expect from such a sugary pie. So if you're craving lemon, but you don't want to make lemon meringue pie or lemon bars, and you want an old-fashioned southern dessert for Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, a Sunday dinner, or just because, you should definitely make this recipe. It's super easy, so I know you'll love it. And even though it's great on its own, it's also delicious with some vanilla ice cream. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.